Facebook Periscope. And start the music. There we go.
YouTube/Brograph tutorial. Very exciting.
Was it last time?
Yep.
We switched to mograph.com next week.
Okay. Mograph. Very official.
Very official.
From Brograph to Mograph.
Yep.
So this is the last. I'm the last guest of Brograph.
The last Brograph guest.
We're just getting things set up. We're actually very quiet right now. If you'd like, I can just talk to you.
You can always hear us during this segment.
You were just a guest on the Go Gorilla podcast, right? I haven't listened to it yet. I do enjoy your episodes.
All right. That
Hello, Phil.
Is out. Grade 0.
What are you doing, Phil? Get back to work.
Alright, good on Facebook.
Harry, are you going to NAB? Sad you're not going to NAB. What's up, Swaroop? What's up, Dan Marino? What's up, Pedro? What's up, Claudio? What's up, Stephen Shook? What's up, Vincent? What's up, Gustav? Gustav
Perry. Okay, cool. All right, I'm gonna take our faces live here. Everything's
Let's
running.
do it. Let's go live.
We'll do it live.
Do it live.
Do it live. All right, so the stream is up and running. What's up, everybody? People coming in here. We'll go ahead and put the kibosh on the music for now. There we go. All right,
Is this where we start recording?
Yes, let's start rolling here, and we'll do a little sync with a clap. Let me get my stuff running here. Rolling now.
Simon,
check.
tell me again how you pronounce your last name. I don't want to mess it up.
Holmedal.
Olmadal. Is that right?
Yeah, that's good enough. That's good enough.
Okay.
Good enough for an American, Matt.
It's
All right.
it's
It's not
pretty
gonna get
accurate.
much better. Yeah. All right, I'm rolling. Are y'all rolling?
Yes, recording now.
Alright.
I am now. Yes.
Cool. All right. We're gonna do a sync. The way we're gonna do that is 1, 2, 3, clap.
Okay.
So I'll do the countdown and then we'll clap.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. Cool.
Perfect.
All right.
I think that was the most in sync clap I've ever heard.
In sync.
In sync.
Hmm.
Ba ba ba.
All right. All right.
I'm
I think
sorry
we
for any
are...
ambient audio now. I hear music from next door.
Oh,
I
it's
hope
all
you
right.
don't-
We don't hear it.
Yeah.
We don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have a gate put on that. Everything. So we're good.
Technology.
Yeah. All right. So everybody's good. Everybody's rolling. The recorders are good. Just keep an eye on your recording while we're going, and just make sure it's still going. Just have that
Yeah.
up. Just make sure nothing
Yeah.
stops for any random reason, because it happens. It happens to me too. Sometimes my recording just stops. It does. So the way we'll do the intro is I'll do the intro and say I'm Dave. Matt will say I'm Matt, and then he'll introduce you. And
Sure.
then when he introduces you, you just say, "What's up, everybody?" And then I'll go into my big, long description of the show. And then we'll get into things. So,
Got him.
all right.
Sounds good.
All right, here we go. What up, bros? And welcome to another Brograph Brocast. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt. Joining us today is the super talented Mr. Simon Holmedal.
Thank you. Hey, Ron.
And Brograph
Thanks
is
for
a
having
supplement to our site, Brograph.com, which is a motion graphics tutorial site with tutorials, plugins, podcasts, and other MoGraph stuff. And on the show, we talk about everything ranging from motion graphics to Cinema 4D, After Effects, plugins, render engines, doing business, doing taxes, being a contractor, or working for the man. And you can email us, brograph@brograph.com. That is the last week we'll be taking emails to that address. We have a little bit of a changeover happening next week. We will be going to MoGraph podcasts instead of Brograph podcasts, so we're super excited about that. And we'll talk about more about that next week when we get to that point. We do want to quickly tease a little something though.
Are we doing that right now?
We're just hopping right into it.
All right, let's do it.
I'm so confused on what we're teasing and not teasing at this point, Matt. I'm going to let you do it.
I can handle this.
Okay, you
because I
got
got this
this.
under control.
Okay.
Okay. So we're super duper mega excited to announce this is something that we've been putting together with the Monday meeting guys, both Liam and Mark. And we have been putting this together, and we're very excited. This is kind of the first little tease. We're putting together Camp MoGraph. So you can check it out online. Go to campmograph.com and sign up to be notified once we fully release all the details. The details for it will be coming in the next few weeks and stuff like that. But basically, it's a retreat for motion graphics artists and 3D animators. And so it's going to be very, very cool. I would totally recommend that you sign up, because if it sounds like something that you're interested in, we have a feeling that it's gonna sell out fast. We hope. Here's
We
fingers
hope so.
crossed
We
that
hope
it sells
so.
out.
The
Yes, we've
the
been working
Monday,
really hard.
What's the newsletter? The Monday.
The School of Motion Monday newsletter.
Yeah.
You know, they put it out, and we've gotten a bunch of subscribers. So
Yeah,
you know, there's
already.
only a limited amount of spots available. But yeah, So make sure you sign up because it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
More details to come
More
later.
details soon. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all we can say about it so far. But other notes I have from this week: is everybody jumping on the 2.35 ratio train, or is it just me? Is it just recently? Is it just by chance, or is this like a fad that's happening? I don't know.
I don't know.
1920 by 817.
I was talking about aspect ratio.
Yeah,
Okay.
letterboxing your HD stuff to 2.35. Is it just like a coincidence for me, or are people like?
I mean, I've been doing that for years. I have the option.
I know
Like,
people
as wide as possible.
Yeah, I know people have been doing
Always
it, but
just
it's kind of like I don't know. It's
It's just the same as the 21 by 9, like those widescreen monitors, basically.
right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe they just become more popular.
I guess
mean,
so.
It's also I just find anything that widescreen just looks more cinematic.
Oh,
So,
very much so.
by default.
Very
it's
much
just
so.
nice.
People joke around about some of those, like what's the Moses film, Matt? The Moses film with what's his name in it? I forget the
Moses
name
film?
of it now. all of
The
a sudden.
10 Commandments?
The 10 Commandments, yes. I've never watched it. I just see the jokes about it, and I don't remember what it's called. The 10 Commandments. I don't know these church things. I don't know.
Oh man, that's funny. That's
Oh.
funny.
Oh. It's in like super mega extreme ultra wide. You know,
I saw
at
that
some
they're
point you'll have
selling
like
this
1
screen.
pixel. Oh
But they're
my
selling
gosh.
these 49-inch screens now. They're like literally 32 by 9, I think.
32
Aspect
by 9.
ratio.
Jeez.
Yeah, I've seen it. They're like super wide, like 49-inch screens.
Man.
I like this super widescreen stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's great. But
Yeah,
I can't
it's good.
imagine like that wide.
Yeah.
That's insane.
I mean,
Yeah.
it gets a little bit over the. I mean, I think it's better to have vertical space for working than like horizontal, maybe. But
I'm
Eventually,
loving
it's just
my,
going to get
my
so
widescreen.
wide that it's really only like 2 pixels
That's
high.
what I'm saying. Yeah,
and
it's just a
then, like, yeah.
pixel. You know, you just have to imagine it. That's the way the cool kids are doing it anyway. But
Right.
also, Foundry was sold this week.
Yeah, but take that with a grain of salt.
I know. I'm kind of like, what does it matter?
It's not a like a 3D animation or video or compositing company like Adobe or Maxon or something like that who's buying out the Foundry. It's an investor who already has a bunch of they've got a bunch of money. It's already happened once before, you know. So it's not like this is going to be life changing like when Adobe bought Substance, you know.
Yeah, there was
has
like
that been life changing? Has it changed?
No, but I have a feeling it will. It
Yeah.
will change things. You know,
Yeah.
I have a feeling we all know that is going to change somehow.
Yeah.
Versus just some random investment company buying out.
right. Well, because
them.
the
Like,
rumor
you know.
was that Adobe was going to buy Foundry for a long time.
Yeah,
But it
I don't
didn't
know.
happen,
I don't
so-
think it'll happen.
Yeah.
They should, but
You think so?
well, maybe not. No,
I don't.
I think
so.
Maxon should buy him.
Foundry.
Yeah, dude,
I
that'd
don't
be
know.
sweet.
I don't know. That doesn't. I don't know. I mean, I know. I don't know. I don't know. I
Then
wanna
we
say
have
something
Solid
shit.
Angle that got bought as well by Autodesk, isn't it? So
Yeah.
I don't know how that has affected. I don't know if it has affected them really.
Yeah,
As in,
and didn't and a couple of years ago, Sapphire got bought out by Boris, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know where it's going.
And other news this week. This is something that I came across on Pond 5, but this would be relevant for anybody that buys footage on Pond 5. Went to buy some footage one day, and I needed super low resolution
Yeah.
footage, right? And they offer low resolution footage if you need it. It's like, you know, smaller standard def web. They call them web versions. You know, like more cost effective. You know, because when you're putting something together, let's say you have 10 shots. Now, a lot of times those shots can be $60 to $150 a pop, right? So you put all that in your cart, and some of these shots what you're working on will be maybe like a split second, you know, or half a second of something. You're going to pay $150 for that half second shot. And so what we were working on was super low resolution, and all I needed was small versions of that. So I get on and I put everything in the cart, and I'm like, okay, web version, and the total comes out to like $400 and something. And I'm like, okay, that's manageable. That's my budget. And the next day when I went to purchase the footage, because I wasn't quite ready yet, there's no option for that anymore. And I was like, what's going on? I don't have the option for web. And so I call them up on the phone, and I'm like, what happened to this? I had it in the cart. It was $400 and something, and now it's $1,000. And they're like, well, I don't know what's going on. We're going to have to call you back. And I'm like, okay. So, of course, they never call me back. I get an email the next day, even though I was in a hurry, but thanks, guys. I get an email the next day that says, it's just not available anymore due to something server. I think that they weren't making
Maybe you
enough
should
money.
try a proxy from another country. Maybe it's like because you've been accessing it before. I know it's been like that with flight tickets sometimes.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking at first. Is like this a tease, and then they like take it away if you don't buy it right away. And so, but I talked to them on the phone again. I called them back up, and they're like, no, like we don't sell it anymore. We just happened to get rid of web versions of video as of yesterday. And I'm like, but this was like in my cart, and this was my budget, and now it's $1,000. What am I supposed to do? All they could do is offer me a 20% discount. That's all they could do. But they're like, nope, sorry. So no more web versions on Pond 5.
It's a shame. I got all those videos I'm going to upload to eBalm's World.
Yeah, we don't have chat in here for some reason. I'm going to try
Yeah,
and
I was going to say.
it. I don't know what's going on there, but yes, that chat is so wonky sometimes. I don't know. I just refreshed it, so hopefully it'll come back or something. Anyway, so the next week wrap-up thing I have here is, I just I was also working on, with this low footage, and had to renew my VHS filter for the year as well.
for Red Giant,
aka Red Giant. It's my yearly VHS filter re-up, because that's basically what I use it for the most. There we go. Chat's working now. Oh,
Okay.
That's nice. Since
VHS filter, so like converting it to like looking like a VHS.
Yeah, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
a
like
great little deal, but it's I don't know. I wish I could just buy the standalone plugin for that, because I feel like I pay $180 a year for that.
I bet you could find an After Effects VHS filter, or Sage was telling us that he could just print it off to VHS. They for some of the games that they do, they'll actually render out something and then record it straight to VHS, and then capture that. So
someone should set up like a video conversion service where you actually record an uploaded video to VHS and then re-download it again.
Yeah,
they should have like a factory of just VHS tapes.
Super authentic, and you could just record over the old ones, because who cares?
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. They just record.
It just gets more. It just gets more better looking.
Yeah, you have to pay more for the old type.
More messed up.
Yeah. Oh man, the more people use it, the better it gets. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like we're just not getting YouTube chat in here for some reason. I don't know what the deal is there. That's weird. Anyway, whatever. We'll keep moving on. We got the chat here to the side, so we can read it ourselves. It's all good. Yeah, but that's it for week wrap-up stuff. Simon, I want to talk about some of the... Oh, there it goes. Cool. Ooh, yeah, it has little logos on it now. It has like little people's like the first letter of their name or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, maybe weird. They changed it a little bit. So, Simon, let's talk about your stuff. I met you for the first time just a few months ago at MDC. You had just done your talk at MDC. And we kind of all headed over to the pub next door afterwards, and just started hanging out. So you and I started talking about all sorts of fun, nerdy, geeky, nerd out stuff. And I was like, yeah, you got to come on the show and talk about some of this stuff, because we had a good chat about Houdini and servers and rendering and everything else. So I guess first of all, tell us a little bit about your background for I guess where you grew up and you know, where you are now and where you went to school, and we'll kind of go from there.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Stockholm, Sweden, and I came to and now I live in London. I've been here for the last 9 years. I worked at 8 years for Man vs. Machine. Started there as an intern and then just stayed there for a bunch of years. I just saw it as like a really good a place to learn and a place to like develop skills and stuff like that. Was using Cinema 4D for a bunch of years there, and then I switched to Houdini about 4 or 5 years ago, almost exclusively. I studied at this school called Hyper Island. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's this it's kind of an interesting school. We don't have any teachers there or anything. It's just like people from the industry coming in, having a module with the class, and then giving you a brief, and then you work in small groups together and learn from each other. So that's kind of how that was structured. That was pretty good.
I think Nick Campbell spoke there like a long time ago.
Yeah, I met him there actually, because he came there when we were the first class, actually, the first motion class there. And this was back in 2009.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I remember that was one of the original videos that he posted. That wasn't a tutorial, you know.
Okay.
I think he posted his talk.
I don't remember. I remember I started, I got to know him a little bit then, and I started making some tutorials as well for Grayscale back then, which I haven't done since. It was a lot of years ago, but But yeah, that was a really good experience. Although because we were the first class, it was a little bit of a learning thing for the school as well. They didn't really know what motion was, so we had to kind of educate the school about it, because they had like this a lot of digital media classes in the past. So they kind of like tried to shoehorn it from that standpoint, where this was much more of a niche class, and it was a shorter time span. We only had like a year. So we had to be more focused, in our opinion. And I think they've probably fixed all of this now, because it's been many years since. But and then before that, I studied graphic design for a year as well at another school called Forsbergs in Stockholm. That was more traditional.
What were your tutorials about on Grayscale Gorilla?
I think you can still find them. Don't look at them though. But it was like Cinema 4D stuff, just thinking particles and figuring out, how to abuse tools. I've always like from the first time I opened Cinema, I started like just trying to break it, like combining different things and make little systems that would work together. And I found that really interesting, and so I quite early went into using Espresso a lot and Python as well, quite a bit, to kind of make it do stuff that it didn't do out of the box. But it got a little bit out of hand, and it ended up taking a lot of my time. So then, like a friend of mine, my business partner now, Mark, he kind of got me onto Houdini and showed me the ropes there. And I was like, it took half a year of convincing though, because I was quite hardcore fanboy. Cinema. So
yeah, that's a hard transition. And we talked about that a little bit too, because my question to you when we were at the pub was, well, by the way, I thoroughly enjoyed your presentation. I know you were up there like, oh, I'm so sorry guys, whatever, but like we were loving it. We were loving all your experiments that you were showing us and everything. Like they were great.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, it's always tricky because I don't want to repeat myself, and like I've done a few talks like this, so I don't want to like dwell on older stuff. And then I also every talk is slightly different. Like people are different technical, so it depends on where you want to focus on. So I just wanted to kind of not dwell on stuff, but I really find that interesting. The kind of the stuff I was talking about with the cops. I don't know if you remember that, but where you go when you actually do shaders essentially in Houdini, kind of anyway.
Yeah,
that was really interesting.
The fractal kind of the repeating the one that was kind of like it's hard to describe over audio, but
oh yeah, the noise patterns and stuff.
yeah,
like
repeating. It kind of had like the gold texture inside of it. The outside, I think, was maybe like rock. I can't remember exactly.
I don't remember.
I'm trying to
either,
remember,
to be honest.
but it was just a continuous.
Oh, you're talking
fractal-
about the Us by Night title sequence.
I
thing.
think so. I think so. Yeah.
Yes.
I need to go back to your site and look and see what the name of it was. But yeah.
Yeah, that was the title sequence for a design event in Utrecht. No, not Utrecht. Sorry, it's in. I'm blanking now. I should know that.
And then
But yeah, it's really good.
you had the one with the water too. It was a water
Oh, yeah.
commercial.
Oh yeah.
And that was
yeah.
what country was that for though? It was
That was for Japan.
Japan. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It was a Japanese mineral water commercial, and it was really fun. It's called Eloas, and it was basically this water drop that was falling down from the sky, and it was being filtered through this mountain. It was quite this
I
elaborate.
saw that. Amazing.
Thank you.
Very well done.
Yeah.
That was a really fun project. And it was kind of a really nice one because we can kind of separate it out, because that was done at Man B when I was working there.
Okay.
So we kind of divided up the shots, and we did like 2-3 each. So it
Was
really...
the rabbit real or fake?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, that was real. That was
okay.
shot.
Ah,
All right.
I win.
Yeah, that was the question.
We had a
I was
bet
like,
going.
dude, I was like, is that a CG? Because that's so
I
good.
wish.
Yeah.
That was
I
a
told
really
Dave, I
weird
said, no, there's
request,
no
too.
way. That's practical.
Yeah.
That
It's
was-
gotta be.
No, we matched kind of the plants and the environment of that plate with in CG. So there was a couple of CG shots before and after that, but that was the only live action shot.
Now-
And the people, obviously.
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
end, We didn't do them.
Now, when we were talking at the pub, though, I was like, a lot of people like myself, a lot of listeners are either dabbling in Houdini, trying to get into Houdini, trying to figure out, how I'm a fully integrated Cinema 4D guy, and I don't really want to move from Cinema 4D. I know a lot of people would like to use Houdini as a supplement to what they do in Cinema 4D. And so my question when we were at the pub was, how did you get to the point where you transitioned into Houdini? Because you told me that you are mostly Houdini all the time at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I was in your position too, like where I was kind of very unsure if it was worth it. But for me, there was this one moment when I was building this. There was this project for a medical company. We were doing this cell division, and they didn't want it to look like actual cells. They wanted it to be more high tech and a little bit more scientific looking. In a lack of a better way of describing it, but it was, and I had built this system in Cinema 4D with Express and a bunch of stuff, and it was this continuous unfolding of polygons. It's become a little bit more popular now, and it's kind of, but back then I hadn't seen anyone do that, and it was something that it was quite a mess in my system. I had like this kind of nulls with this Express rig that did all these blend shapes and different things, and then that were controlled by Espresso setups that were iterating through all the null setups and all the Espresso tags and all the it was like, let's not go there, but it was quite complex. And I sat down with Mark, who's now my business partner. He had started using Houdini or learning Houdini a year earlier. He was working as a freelancer as well at Manvi, and at the time, and we sat down for an hour or two. I can't remember exactly, but we can basically backtracked and tried to recreate exactly the same thing that I had created in cinema. And after I saw how flexible it was and how easy it was to replace the input geometry and also feedback itself onto itself, I was sold. Like I couldn't see myself doing that because I was essentially abusing cinema in a way. Like the way I was building it wasn't meant to work that way.
Right.
It was very inefficient memory wise, and it was really slow.
Yeah, you were pushing that type of thing to the limit in there, and basically found a way to do it procedurally, I guess. Was it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty somewhat basic thing in a way what we did, but it literally just took a polygon and then scaled it down and rotated around 90 degrees if you're thinking of a triangle, and then created the additional polygons to fill in the original space. And then it could then feed back those polygons back into itself to kind of subdivide it one level further, and you can kind of get a slider per polygon to kind of subdivide however many steps you wanted.
So is that something that is done with code, or because I know hardly anything about Houdini, so is that kind of thing done with code, or is it done?
It can be done in many different ways, but I mean, I very rarely code stuff in text form. Like I do a little bit when I have to, and I can do it, but I find myself most of the time using VOPs for this kind of stuff, which is essentially coding anyway. It's just a visual version of Vex. I just find it simpler because I'm so used to it. Because when I first started using Houdini, I kind of like only used that because I was like, okay, this feels like espresso. I'm like, this is the same thing. So I just learned to deal with that way. And then I went into a phase where I was coding everything and stuff, but I find that myself like faster just doing it in VOPs, and people may call me crazy for that because it's not the norm to do these things there. But Vex is, as he's asking here, Vex is kind of like this vertex expression language. It's a multi-threaded coding language inside of Houdini that is kind of specific to Houdini. But this particular test that we did, or like this thing that we did back then, was very basic. It was just done with the built-in nodes, and like, but it was just really interesting because you have this for loop where you can essentially go through each polygon, and then it treats each polygon as if that's all you had in your scene, and you can do anything. You can just subdivide it, and then delete whatever polygons you want, and then keep the others or whatever, do blend shapes, whatever you need to do, and then it applies it to all of the polygons in the mesh. So that way you can kind of build a quite specific thing quite easily, and then apply it to all the polygons. And you can also drive it based on information that lives on that original polygon, so you can kind of feed it an attribute that then transitions it or whatever you want to do. So it's very, very powerful stuff, but it's not super complicated. But your question was more how you get into it.
Yeah, I guess because you kind of told me a story about how you learned it without interrupting your workflow. And I think that's what a lot of people's concern is.
Oh yeah, I mean, it definitely is going to take up more time. So unless you have the willpower to do it, because I tried a couple of times before, and it wasn't until Softimage got killed by Autodesk that it kind of shifted the entire industry. Like all the people that were kind of considering something else than the current tool was either choosing between Softimage or Houdini for this sort of thing, and Softimage had this ice compounds which were really powerful and kind of felt like Cinema 4D on steroids. And once they got killed by Autodesk, then there was like no more competition. That's when I decided to jump over, and a lot of people with me. But I say for me, it took that seeing how flexible it was and how much time I could save, because every time I wanted to change the mesh on my system that I had built in Cinema, I needed about 15 minutes. Whereas here, he could just swap it out, like plug and play, you know. You plug in, because it's kind of like a recipe. So you just plug in the mesh and then you do your operations. And if you just exchange the mesh up top, it will just trickle through and you know, rebuild. So when I saw that, I could realize how much time I would save by learning it. Because at the time, I was spending like a week, maybe a week and a half sometimes to kind of figure out these complex systems in Cinema, which there was a built-in tool for in Houdini, and I could have just spent that time learning it instead and save. So it took that to convince me, and it's not for everyone. Sorry.
Where did you learn it?
I just learned it. Just Google different tutorials and.
I just did.
So
no,
basically every day you would come in early, right, to work and learn a little bit.
Yeah, I would kind of learn it in the evenings and in the morning at home before work. But yeah, same thing. So I would kind of like I knew in order I wanted to just figure out the shortest path to where I can replace all the stuff that I knew in Cinema that I used on a daily basis with Houdini. So basically, if I was using the Brograph, then I would have to figure out how can I do the same thing with like cloners and effectors and all of this stuff. And then like various deformers and spline wraps and all of this stuff that, I was used to using. So just translating that essentially into Houdini and taking one thing at a time, even though it did take, it was, I think, about 3 months of like very little sleep, but I knew that it was going to be worth it in the end, because, but you need to be convinced, because otherwise you just give up.
Yeah,
and I'm not
it's
sure,
tough.
to be perfectly honest, today, I'm not sure if I would have done it, because now this was at the time when cinema was kind of not updating their software very, very, very well. Like I remember this was when they released the cogwheel as one of the key features, and that was the last thing where I was like, okay, I can't stay here.
But now they're doing stuff with fields and
yeah, now they're doing really interesting stuff. So now I'm not sure if I would have been able to convince myself, but at the time that was, so I'm kind of lucky that happened then. But
I like that
but
approach,
it's still very
though.
powerful.
I like thinking, okay, well, how do I just make a grid of cubes? Because everybody wants to jump in and they want to do pyro sims and liquid and they want to make cloud scenes and they want to do all this crazy stuff, but it might be better to start with something a little more basic than that, a little more rudimentary. And
I think one of the things that I always applied, even from when I was learning cinema and before then, was like whenever I was learning a tutorial or viewing, like learning cinema, whatever it was, I always made sure that whatever I'm spending time learning is something that I'm going to be using on a daily basis, because like when I went to Hyper, for example, a lot of people in my class, they were all learning real flow and stuff like that. And I was like, if you're spending 60% of your time learning real flow, you're going to be able to do like a water splash. You're going to be able to do some cool water effects. But that's not nearly as useful as learning generalist tools like cinema and all the MoGraph modules. So I just went through all the menus trying to figure out exactly what everything did and how I could use that. So I think that was the key thing, and I just applied that same thinking when learning Houdini. Like, what is the most important thing so far from where I've been that I can use on a daily basis? And then you will have to work a bit later night some days to kind of like, because certain thing takes longer, and you might not be a tool in place that does exactly what you want. But once you're learning that one thing and figure it out, you can then package it up into an asset that then you can reuse and distribute. So then you start building your own tools, and then you can build tools with those tools inside of them. So it becomes this inception of tool building that is really interesting, and this can be distributed and shared with your colleagues as well.
Are you modeling in Houdini as well?
I do everything there, yeah. Everything from modeling to animation and simulation and rendering, all of it, except compositing. Although I do some compositing there as well, because they have a built-in compositor, but I'm mainly using it more like a substance designer replacement.
Gotcha.
Because what I really love about it is that everything kind of flows. Like you can have some sort of information, whatever it is, an attribute on a point, or you can sample heat from a flame simulation or something like that, and that can then become a part of your shader or drive anything, even in your composite, which is anyway, it's just endless. It's endless.
Yeah.
Frederick or Frederic, I'm not sure, in the chat said he is a Hyper Island student on his first internship. And you and Alexa Serbu, is that how you pronounce it? Serbu?
I believe so. She lives close by here, in my area as well. If it's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, it must be her.
And Liam actually was asking a question. This is something we were going to talk about too, is what operating system you're on. Because you and I talked about that a little bit, and I guess you're on Linux, right? We're running everything on Panoply is on Linux now. I started using it because, well, first back in the day I was using Macs all the time, and you know what happened with them? Like they didn't care for us that much. The last time I used
there's a conference going on right now.
Yeah, right.
Maybe they're gonna.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so maybe they'll come up with something really important now.
Too late.
Maybe I spoke too soon. But I mean, the last time I used a Mac was the last project I did at ManV actually was for Apple, and it was for the iMac Pro, and the whole brief there was basically do anything with this machine. So I had to work on the machine to make it.
Oh, you had to make the spot with the machine.
Yeah, exactly. That was the brief. But it was, to be fair, the iMac Pro is really powerful. It's like not necessarily cost effective because it's a single Xeon, which is the whole point of the Xeon processor is multiple.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now with the Threadripper, you can get so much better performance on the AMD side. So, but the reason why we use Linux is because I was doing a project, and this was before I came to Panoply, but I was doing a project where my machine ended up restarting and reinstalling with Windows updates and breaking it multiple times. It was 3 times in a week, and I reinstalled it, and it was getting out of hand. So I was like, okay, I can't keep going like this. This is ridiculous. So I just downloaded whatever seemed to be the easiest Linux distro that I could find, which was Ubuntu at the time, 16.04. GNOME was what I was using. And I installed it, and I pushed through the project, and it was very easy to install. The first thing I noticed was that my Wacom was working even in the installer of Linux of the Linux.
Really?
I was like, damn, this is good, because like half the time I booted into Windows, it was like it was not recognizing the driver for it. I was having I had like an older Wacom, like the Intuos 3, but still, it was really inconsistent with the drivers, and I didn't like the kind of Candy Crush stuff that pops up and all of like.
Yeah, I know, and I mean, and you can like in the chat here, you can turn off Windows updates and all that, but I've done that before. I have turned off everything, and it will still somehow come back and like mess something up.
I mean, that was my feeling too, but also at this point, I didn't intend to stay with Linux. I just wanted to get the job done.
Right.
But then in the end, I realized, I was like, damn, this is like really comfortable to work in. There's not much distractions. It's just clean and simple, and you just have the tools you need. And then it's kind of like the early Mac experience before that started becoming annoying as well.
Yeah. I've updated in group policy, and I've done all that stuff. And about 60 days later, it'll come back and it'll say something like, well, there's some really important updates that you're missing out on here.
Exactly.
I'm like, no. And then like the next day it starts doing some weird update in the background that it's forcing me to do. And I'm like, I have everything off in my group policy. And so when you switched over, do you still use Windows or Mac or anything for your day-to-day, or do you do everything on Linux?
We do everything on Linux. At Panoply, at home I have Macs, like I have a Mac laptop that I'm on now, but and I have an old Mac Pro as well, which I'm sometimes do some work on. But yeah, we do everything. We use like Google Docs for like all the contracts and documents, stuff like that, presentations, and then we use Nuke Studio for editing and Nuke X for compositing.
So even just sitting down doing email, any of that stuff,
that's all in the browser anyway.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really make a difference. So
is there anything that's missing that you feel like you wish you had on Linux? Because that's always been my
Candy Crush, dude. You already said
Candy Crush. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, we all the machines at Panoply has a dual boot, so you can boot into Windows if you need something. We kind of use Deadline as well. So if we need to encode to certain Apple like H.264 stuff, we can do that through Deadline, because we just set up our license server is a Mac, so we just use that as a node on Deadline to convert stuff.
Oh yeah, some people are asking about Adobe. What do you do for compositing?
Yeah,
simple
as I
stuff?
said,
Is it all?
We use Nuke for everything.
Yeah,
and I find it way simpler if you're doing like any sort of compositing in Nuke and you get used to it. Like, it's really hard to go back.
Photoshopping things, you use like a different tool?
for what?
For like anything you'd have to do in Photoshop,
like tiling textures and stuff?
Yeah, just the little stuff. I mean, I'm not a big Photoshop person anymore either. I used to use it all the time. And there's so much you can do in the other programs, but sometimes you do have to kind of go to some sort of image editor.
Yeah. So again, I use Nuke for this too. Like for most things, unless it's texture-based stuff, then I kind of do it directly in Houdini because they have your own compositor there, and I find it easier to keep that live, so I can adjust contrast and curves and stuff and split stuff up. I think because you can reference that composite network in Houdini directly in your shader in Redshift or whatever, so it's a live link, which is really nice. So it's and not only that, you can also reach out into the scene, like on the geometry, sample stuff from the scene and color pixels based on that, and then composite that and into, which is really interesting.
And the other thing we talked about too was the speed increase, I think, in Redshift that you get when using Linux.
Yeah, that was another thing I tried. Like that, I found, because that's when I first switched, I noticed that it was faster, it was more responsive, and I couldn't figure out why. But I did some tests because I had a machine with 6 GPUs at the time. I had like this Cubix expander unit, which allowed me to run 3 internal in the machine and then 1 box with 4 external. And I was running that on my PC, and I was running Linux on that machine. And then we had one of these rack-mounted machines in the office with 8 cards. And I had 6 cards, and mine was still running the same scene much faster with 2 cards less, and it was the same type of cards too. So it was really quite significant. So
didn't you tell me it was almost 2 times as fast?
It was about 25 to 30% faster per card. Per card.
Wow.
So I don't know. I haven't done any scientific testing, but I noticed. I remember one frame that I was rendering from one of the Logitech jobs we did. It was about 530 on my machine per frame, one of the more heavy frames there, and the other machine with 8 cards took about 7 minutes. So it was 2 minutes less with 2 cards less. So that's like quite a big deal. So at this point I was like, okay, I'm just gonna stick with Linux because I don't use. I mean, I never really liked Photoshop anyway. When I was doing pictures like still frame compositing, I did it in After Effects anyway. And then I switched to Fusion, and then with Panoply I picked up Nuke because they had licenses for that, and I'm never going back. It's so good.
And so the reason for what was I going to say? The reason for it being faster is because I guess on Windows there's like another layer of something.
I'm not 100%, but I mean, someone told me it's because of display drivers in Windows that it's becoming like a bottleneck or something. I'm not sure.
There are some people who actually stick with Windows 7 because rendering is a bit faster because the Windows doesn't take up as many resources for the GPU.
I have no idea why this is. It's strange.
See, so what we need to do is we need to build a Linux box that's just specifically for rendering.
With deadline and stuff on it, ready to go and all that. Yeah.
Another thing which is I found really helpful running Linux, especially if you have Macs as well, is that you can kind of decide how and maybe you can do this on Windows too. I'm just not an expert in networking and stuff like that, but I found that we can mount the server and all the server locations in the same way that a Mac does it, so that all the texture paths and everything is consistent on all the machines.
Oh, cool.
So it's essentially mounting the server as a local drive on all the machines, so they all always have the same paths.
So they always see like Z.
You can trust it, you know?
Yeah, like a Z, like Z:// something on every computer, and then so nothing ever gets confused.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not using that kind of letter thing, but
it's using it as a volumes.
It's a slash volumes.
Okay. Billy said DirectX needs to communicate between the hardware, the GPU driver, and the GPU itself. So DirectX is probably the bottleneck there on Windows, I guess. It seems like. And then there was another question. What Linux distro are you using now?
So we were using 1604 GNOME, and now we're using 1804 now, which is the latest long-term supported release of Ubuntu. So because I mean, and the only thing about Ubuntu, the only reason why we use that is because that's what I started using back then. It just seemed to work quite well. I heard that Autodesk is not fully supporting Debian-based distros, but we don't really use Maya or anything like that, so that's not been an issue for us. And Substance have been running fine as well. 3D Code is fine. Redshift, Octane, all of that stuff works fine. It's a little bit of a learning curve, so I'm not sure if I can recommend it to people, but it has its gains. Like it's been, once it's up and running, it's fairly stable, and it's a nice environment because it's quite minimalist.
Yeah. Let's see what else I got here. Oh yeah, you wanted to talk about, I put this in the notes too, Houdini for simpler tasks.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just has this, people think that Houdini, well, they associate it, and rightfully so, with the VFX and all the simulations and stuff that people it's capable of doing, but it's actually quite good and helpful to work in this kind of procedural manner, even for simpler tasks. Like we do like all the animations, including like, you know, camera and everything directly in Houdini, and I don't see, it's not that different from anything else. And I was very comfortable before in cinema to just, you know, when I was animating camera, I was stacking nulls, and then I had the camera underneath. I'm not sure how you guys do it, but that's how I like to do it. So I could isolate different axes for rotation and offsets and stuff like that. And you can replicate that really easily in Houdini just by stacking nulls and plugging a camera in. It looks a little bit different, but it's the same thing. And the curve editor is pretty good, I think. In Houdini as well, and like it's the same thing, you know, but then you can dive deeper and when you need to, but it's also, I think it was from 16.5, if I'm not mistaken, that they introduced this navigation thing that made a huge difference for how comfortable it felt to kind of navigating, because you know how in cinema, if you pivot around one point, it pivots around that point, not the center of the world.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing in Houdini until 16.5. So before that, it felt a bit clunky to move around and stuff. But they're making a lot of improvements as well to like direct manipulation in the viewport as well. So you can kind of start working and ignoring the node path in certain parts of your process as well.
Yeah, that's something that for me, I always talk about the S key in Cinema 4D and not doing orbit around cursor, but doing orbit around your selected object, because it's so much easier to just hit S and boom, it's right in the middle. You rotate around it. That's
so you're gonna feel the pain a little bit.
Yeah.
If you're used to the speed of just like really quickly directly manipulating points, and you're gonna be a bit frustrated to begin with. But it's something that I feel like the gains outweigh the bad parts for me at least. And the time, and they are improving these things, so it's only getting better. I can see a huge improvement since when I started to, I think it was version 13 or something, and now it's on 17.5, so it's improved a lot. And I think a lot of it came from, you know, when Softimage died, they tried to kind of make it more user-friendly and rebrand it a little bit to become more of a generalist tool. And they've done a good job of doing that while still tailoring it to the more high-end VFX stuff as well. So it's pretty cool.
Another question here, do you use Mantra?
No, I haven't used it. We only use Redshift pretty much. I have tried it, but it was really, really slow. When I first started using Houdini, I used Arnold. It's kind of similar to Mantra in many ways, but just faster. And it was really, really good for the stuff we did then, because it was we did a lot of Flynet stuff, and it's really efficient at rendering curves. So that's why we used it. But and then I didn't have a GPU set up. ready then either. And I think I used Octane a little bit then, but it was really unstable. I only had like a 780 card or something like that, which wasn't very good.
Right.
Well, you've got a new machine now. Can I show a picture of this?
Yeah.
Can I show the picture on the thing? Okay, cool. Yeah,
that's
here's,
funny. That's from the office. Yeah. It's a beast.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
It doesn't. You can't see how big it is, but it's like a small fridge. It's really huge, and that's
a small fridge that only heats things up.
Exactly.
So a microwave.
It's a microwave.
It's way bigger than a microwave.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one is pretty good. It's like one of the new Threadripper 64 threads.
Yeah, because I can see the water cooled cards here. What kind of cards are those?
There's 4 2080 Ti's in it.
Okay.
And it's pretty good.
Man.
Pretty good. We haven't used the RDX. Yeah, it runs at about, when under full load, it runs at about 50 degrees on all the cards. So it's pretty good. But all the other machines in the office are air cooled, and it's just, what's it called? Founders cards, various kinds.
Have you run an Octane bench on it yet to get the numbers?
I did. I don't remember what it said, but it was pretty. I think
pretty good. Pretty good, I guess.
I think I can't. I will be. I'm just speculating. I'll tell you later. I'll run it.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Business.
It was better. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead.
No, it definitely runs faster than my old 7 GPU rig. But
I bet.
Yeah.
Business-wise, though, I know you said that your business partner takes care of a lot of the business side of things, but from a client perspective, first of all, well, what types of projects are you working on now, and where does a lot of this come from? Is it word of mouth? Is it Instagram? Is it
It's hard to tell. I mean, where it comes from. But a lot of times it can be from an Instagram link or like from, I don't know actually. We haven't really up to this point seeked up clients and like contacted them directly. We waited for stuff to come in, and so far it's been okay. Like we've been able to stay busy, but we're making some efforts now to kind of try to rethink how we can kind of reach out to kind of make sure that we have a bit of a stuff lined up, because it's hard to plan sometimes.
I know you keep kind of a library of experiments, because I know you do a lot of experimentation. Do you post a lot of that online? Do you just kind of save it, or?
I mean, recently myself, currently on my Instagram, I have probably haven't updated for 6 months. I haven't uploaded anything, and that's because there's something wrong either with my phone or with Instagram. I can't upload videos on iOS. I don't know why. I don't know if that's a bug that I'm the only one having, but I couldn't be bothered to figure it out, so I just left it. But we do a lot of R&D when we have like certain projects that we had in the past have been like R&D projects. If we did one project I can't really talk about, but it's for a game company, and it was like concept art but with more animation and stuff in mind, and designing different transition effects and stuff like that. And that was just like weeks and weeks and weeks of just exploring different things, and like they were really cool because they understood the process, and they gave us really constructive feedback, and it was really, really handy. So we try to do a lot of R&D. And also, I think every time we're faced with a problem, you kind of have to R&D your way around it, and then you come up with something cool along the way, and you save that for later. So, but yeah, we're going to try to put some more stuff out there, but mainly we're saving it till we used it.
Yeah, I think it was you who was saying that you have a lot of folders with experiments in them, and you'll come back to them when you're on another project and kind of revisit some of these things, and especially after you've learned something else, maybe in another area, you come back and you can take a second look at things.
Because they're quite modular, and if you take the time to build the effects in a modular fashion, then you can kind of like just replace them and put in another one and kind of like stack them. And becomes a really interesting and dynamic way of designing, because you can, and I find that you actually have to almost become better at designing, because you kind of have to put the design principles into the algorithms and into the systems that you're building, because otherwise it just looks like default procedural math art, which doesn't have really that much visual consideration to it. It might do, but I'm generalizing. So, but yeah, I definitely think that's important for us, and that's how we find it. It takes longer time before you get a finished thing a lot of times, but you get the flexibility when a client changes something or whatever. You're not worried about those changes, because you don't have to start over.
Right.
You have it's like an open timeline. Every time you drop down a new node, it's like you have your timeline with everything you've done, and you can reference any part of that timeline at any point and feed information from that back to the bottom part of the system. So if you imagine, like, third, you take a cube and you extrude a couple of polygons. Now the second polygon you extruded, you can now reference that in the end, days after, when you modeled this up to a high-res asset. So you can go back, do your UVs before you did all this other stuff, and it's kind of like a time machine.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool. Yeah, it's very, very flexible. And that's the same reason why I find Nuke good, because it works the same way. You can build a comp once, and then you can kind of apply it to multiple shots and then tweak it. And with Redshift, with all the AOVs, you can get like per light, GI, reflection, specular, volumetrics, and you can completely change the look of your image from the, and I love that. It's so powerful.
The AOV stuff in Redshift is absolutely killer. Yeah.
I didn't really do much compositing before. Like, I used to just do like simple color corrections and stuff like that, and some tone mapping. But like after diving deeper into Nuke and realizing how powerful that is, it's hard to go back. And even if you like just, I know a lot of people from Octane, for example, they do a lot of the tone mapping and color correction directly in the IPR.
Right.
You can do that now in Redshift too.
Right.
But my point is that you can replicate that same look, and then you have the flexibility if you need to, or if you want to denoise a particular AOV, for example, in refraction, you can run a neat video thing on that or something to kind of reduce the noise there, and then build your comp that way. And it just gives you so much more flexibility and security if you don't want to re-render just because you're blowing out the shade, like a reflection somewhere or something. It's like I never care. Like if I look at my raw render, usually it's just completely white because there's so much light in it and blown out, and just don't back it down.
That's funny.
Just change the exposure up and down, and you see what information is there.
Liam was asking Matt, it's like, you're gonna try some Houdini now, and we got licenses a few years ago, and we just were so busy, we just weren't able to really dig in the way we wanted to. But
I mean, you can also try it for free. They have the free version. So
what would be the limitations on that for people who haven't really looked at that?
It's no third-party renders.
See, that's the hard part, because I would really want to, if I'm going to use it, I really want to be in Redshift with it,
Absolutely. And then you have to get the indie version, which is still really cheap.
Yeah, it's
cost-effective.
$250 or something like that. That's nothing.
And you can run it on 2 machines too, I think. You can run it on your laptop and your desktop, I think. I could be wrong. I haven't used the indie version myself, but I've heard that.
Yeah, that's something Houdini Mark and I were discussing the other day, is if you're going to do a series on Houdini, what do you do? Because you don't want people who are going to try Houdini and learn a series for the first time to have to go out and buy a copy of it, but then they're not going to be able to use something like Redshift or third party.
The thing is, Redshift is the same in Houdini as it is in Cinema. Like, it's so similar in how it's been. So you don't need much. If you already know Redshift, you can kind of like, once you've committed to learning and understand Houdini, then you can kind of enough. So then you can buy the indie version. It's not that expensive. And Redshift also, you don't need to buy any plugins for it. Like if you own Redshift, you can use it in all the DCCs.
Yeah, that is nice. So people who already have it can just hop right in.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So it's really good. It's really good.
There's things about it too that Mark was telling me about, as far as I don't know. There's things when you're a first time Houdini user that it's nice to have the third party engines around for the
and that's exactly
process.
why I used Arnold in the beginning, because I didn't want to learn Mantra. Mantra had a lot of depth and it has a lot of functions, but I already knew Arnold, and it just let me
right
kind of get the job done quickly and get something rendering at least.
Yeah.
So
business wise, when your business partner and you are getting a new client or something, do you stay on the phone with them? Do the two of you do the interaction? Does one person handle the business side of things?
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit, it depends on how many projects we have going on. We're usually both on the calls, depending on the client and depending on what stage if it's a creative call, I'm definitely on it. But because I do look over a bit more of the production stuff. And he's kind of managing the paperwork and all the finances and that sort of thing, and also a lot of the client interactions too outside of those calls.
See, Matt and I have something that we've been doing recently, and I don't have a good name for it. Maybe business buddy or call coach. I don't know what you would call it, but we've started doing this thing where we have multiple clients, and some of the clients are mine. Technically, like, you know, this is my client, and some of them are Matt's, and he's going to be the point of contact for those people, right? So, sometimes we'll have a call, or we'll have like a new client, but they're technically my client, or they're technically Matt's client because they're the point of contact. But we want the other person to be in on the conversation. But also we're super busy and we're working on other clients' projects and stuff like that. So sometimes what we've been doing here recently is to get on Skype and just have the other person has their call on speaker with the client. So the other person can at least hear it. Don't necessarily say that the other person's there, because like then they would have to talk and all that other stuff. But we'll just mute Skype and we'll kind of type and text each other, coach on that. So like if I hear something that I know is in my area of expertise, and I know the answer to a question, and like he might look at me on camera and be like, "What's this?" And I'll be like, "Oh yeah," and I'll type him an answer to give to the client. It's almost like we coach each other silently through these calls.
So you're not actually in the same room usually. You work from home or something.
Yeah,
okay.
we both
have our own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we just sit next to each other. We have a studio that we're working from, so. We usually just call. We have like one of those.
We don't need that overhead.
Not yet.
I get it. I get it. And I think we didn't do it either in the first couple of years. But now it's just I get that. Yeah. We're actually moving to an even bigger studio next month. So
nice.
Congratulations.
We don't have many people in it, but it's going to be a lot of
expansion.
Space.
Yeah, eventually.
It's mainly because of the heat when the summer comes, because we can't. We have about 19 GPUs in a somewhat small room at the moment, and it's even though we have an AC, it does get rather warm. And when the or summer comes, it's gonna be bad. So we have to.
And we have render nodes. We both have render nodes, and sometimes we share them via the internet. So it's like. It's getting really hot in here. What's going on? Oh, Matt's rendering remotely.
So are you using Deadline for that?
We're not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet.
No, right now we
want to get it all set up.
Yeah,
we've got like 1,000 things going on with NAB prep and all of this, but we want to get Deadline set up to where I'm pretty sure there's a way that we can do it remotely, where I can set it up. And set something to render, and it'll divvy out between my machines and his machines.
I'm pretty sure you can.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a little bit of a headache with textures and stuff. I haven't tried it myself, which is why we're in the same room. We have all the machines are mounted on the server the same way and stuff. But it's so handy for, even when not rendering, like even if I'm just doing say I'm doing a remesh of something or a part of a system that takes a bit of time to cook, I can just send that cooking of the geometry on the farm as well, and then use the entire network to kind of do those calculations. And I do this on a daily basis, and Deadline is super good for those things too, not just for the rendering. So
right now we're both on. We basically do Dropbox
Yeah.
for all of our projects, and that doubles as a backup. But then you could just team view into a remote server, and there it is, and then you just set it up there. Only thing you have to change is the output path, but it's been working fairly well for what we do. Mark had a question for you, which is, what are the best tools in Houdini to start messing around with to make abstract procedural stuff? He says, I'm a noob, but would really like to start dabbling.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, I would just like think about kind of what if you've done something in the past in cinema or wherever you're working in, and just try to think what you'd use there and just try to replicate that. So it's such a broad question, like what abstract procedural stuff is. Like that can be anything. Like it could be a cube that is being distorted. It can be anything, So it's kind of hard to say. But VOPS is really good. It's something to look into. It's kind of like similar to Espresso, and you can do a lot of stuff with noises there, which is cool, which is always interesting. And that's maybe a starting point. But it's a really hard thing to say. It's a very general question. So if you have a more specific thing you want to figure out, then
maybe have like some go-to places online that you went when you were trying to find solutions?
So Side Effects has like a lot of tutorials on the website now. I remember the first things I would recommend that I looked at was the first steps in Houdini. They're kind of, I don't know if they updated them. They might be like for an older version of Houdini now, but and I think it's fairly straightforward to translate it, to the newer versions. And that's something I went through, and then like I seeked out like specific thing, like how to do a bend deformer or a spline wrap or something like that, and then Google that. Literally, you'll find like, this is how you do it, and like this is something to think about, and try this, and then just use the manual a lot as well. Which every node has like a little help icon you can click and read about it. So, and that's just one click away. So. That's what I would say. Sounds boring, I know, but it's quite fun if you can see the potential of it once you start messing with it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and some mentioned here, MOPS is a good start. That's a good point. I haven't tried it myself. That's like Moritz and somebody, and I know was working on that. That's kind of like a Brograph for Houdini preset thing. I haven't tried it, but like. I think it's a good starting point to get stuff moving quickly, and then you can kind of build your own stuff on top of it. But it's something to be said to kind of start building that stuff yourself and getting an understanding for it when the time is right.
And what about lighting?
It's the same. I mean,
do you have any kits or HDRs or anything like that? Are you doing it all just?
Yeah. What's the plugin like market for Houdini?
But this is the best thing. You don't need it.
Yeah. It is its own plugin.
Like you build your Houdini assets, which are the plugins essentially, but they're built in Houdini, and you're just a compound of nodes that are being packaged up with sliders and controllers. So for a lot of stuff, that's all you need.
Interesting.
So they have like you can find that online. They have like, I think they have like a store where you can buy stuff like that as well there. But I built a lot of them myself as well. And for lighting, I mean, HDRs, I have a bunch of collections that with free ones, and I don't have anything that I always go to like that. I usually just light from area lights, just like I find that, and then if I use HDRs, it's generally just for subtle little kick of reflection or bounce light or something like that. But I don't use any plugins besides Redshift. That's it.
Yeah.
And Mark's asking,
really simple.
Yeah, Mark's asking about who your inspirations are. Which people do you follow? Who do you follow online? And
I mean, I try not to follow like other people in our industry too much, because like I don't want to be replicating people's work too much. So that's the main thing. I'm just like, I feel like I'm looking at the same sort of inspirations I looked at in 2009. It's probably really dated. Like it's the kind of stuff that I wanted to do then. Is probably not on trend anymore, but I still think it's kind of cool, and I just want to do it with the new kind of tools and stuff that is available now. I don't know what that means really, but I kind of look at just the internet.
Yeah.
And then, but obviously there are a lot of talented companies out there and people, and I really like Corb's work. They do really cool stuff. It's one of my favorites. They do really confident designs and stuff I like that. Yeah, I don't know. It's a tough one. I used to say like, what would Alex Roman do? Because if you've seen that was to be my like gold standard. He's not released anything in many years now.
I know.
The third and the seventh thing blew my mind when I saw it.
That was huge for me.
It was tears running, and I was like, "Oh, this is so beautiful."
Yeah,
looking at it now, it's like still good, but like it's
Back then, it was a huge deal, and I that was just, it blew me away. It inspired me to really get back into doing 3D stuff at that point. I absolutely loved that. I've actually mentioned that before. Like, I've gone to speak at a couple schools, and I kind of talk about my journey, and that's one of the things that I always talk about, kind of got me back into 3D, is when I saw that.
And I'm trying. That's another reason. Like, I don't really want to look too much, because it's become really noisy with all the Instagram stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And it becomes a little bit depressing if you look at it too much. So I try to keep that, you know, childish energy and inspiration alive by not getting too deep into that stuff. Just thinking about what would be cool if I do this and this and this, and try to think about ways of combining different aesthetics with different types of movement. And then, like, for example, the Us by Night thing was kind of like an inspiration where I looked at plants and how they kind of unfold and pan out, but then contrasting that with a quite stark visual contrast in the rendering and in the shading and everything. So yeah, I don't know, man. I am sometimes you get inspired by like films, like the new Blade Runner film was really cool visually. Like, that was really beautiful, a lot of volumetrics and stuff. I'm a sucker for that.
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Do you get those inspirations from do you get inspiration from other things? That's what Mark was asking too about.
I mean, nature is always like, but I feel like also like I worked so many years at this point at Man V, and then after, and I've been so used to like applying like different aesthetics to different visuals in different ways that I can try and look at images that visually looks really bad, but I'm trying to imagine them in another aesthetic in my mind, and then trying to maybe that's how everyone works, but I find a lot of times my reference pictures are not that interesting, because I just see them together and just put them in a little cluster in PureRef, and I'm like, okay, I see these three pictures together, and that gives me an idea that then I can build upon.
Right.
And start to kind of structure everything up so that visually it's kind of like how the mind works. You just look at, okay, here I have a bunch of really detailed patterns, and then these kind of look similar to this sort of structure on the tree or whatever, or this bark or paint or whatever it is, and then I start to kind of like structure them in space in relation to each other, and then trying to combine them with other things and question, does this work, and why does this work, and why does this not work? How could this be? I'm a little bit tired of just like simulations that don't have any substance to them, so I'm trying to like I'm trying to go back to doing simpler and simpler things, which is just where with more emphasis on design and you know, reason behind it. But it's a journey.
Cool. Yeah. I love PureRef as well, and I
it's really good.
Using it on every project now. You know, my reference folder will have a PureRef file, you know, just for everything, and it makes such a. This is something that, you know, I knew PureRef was around. I had kind of used it once or twice, but you know what Chad Ashley said when he was at DFWC 4D down here talking to us is, you've got to have that up, because you know, you may get a picture or something and you open it and you're like, oh, okay, here's my reference, that's good, and then you flip back to Cinema 4D or whatever program you're using, and your mind just thinks it knows what it needs to see, but unless you have that reference up, like maybe on another monitor or something, or next to it, it makes a huge difference on what you're working on. You know,
It's
to
so
really
true.
look at that.
And
So-
also, like sometimes when you might feel really excited about an idea in the beginning and then you lose it, you know,
Yeah.
you kind of get lost on the way.
Mhm.
It can be good to just like put it there so you know, like this is my ground. This is where I'm
Right.
grounding myself and going back to this, and like I'm trusting my initial instinct on that this was a good idea, even though I'm bored of it now and I don't want to see it ever again.
Mhm.
You know, that we've all been there, you know.
Yeah.
So, but I find that really useful for that. But also like more of a way of mapping the mind. I prefer to just put little pictures together instead of writing down keywords, but everyone is
Yeah.
different. And I also
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
draw or sketch anything. I do everything with reference pictures.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should be able to draw. That would be helpful.
Well, I do want to move over to some Ravcock. What's your flavor?
What's your flavor?
And talk about Octane just a little bit. I know you're not a big Octane guy, but the deck went out this week because, you know, Jules puts the decks out to these presentations that he's doing. So he did have a deck that he put online about the Octane 2019 roadmap. This was for his presentation at GTC. And there's a link we'll put in the show notes. It's a video of all this stuff, and it shows examples and everything. But just to go through just a quick rundown of what's going to come in 2019, which hopefully we'll have Jules on the show to discuss further once that gets a little bit closer. I think you can get a beta or alpha of it right now, I believe.
I think the standalone.
The standalone,
I believe.
not Cinema
Yeah.
4D, but
Yeah. 2018.1 is released, and then
So
they
this is
just
different
today.
from Octane 4, right? This is
Yes.
Right.
This
So they
is the
didn't
next
do the
iteration.
numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
2018 would be basically Octane 5, and this is what we're talking about now would be Octane 6 at this point.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So 2018.1 version 2 was released today. So that one
Right.
fixed a few updates with Cryptomat.
Now this presentation is about Octane 2019. So this is the what's coming down the pipeline is 3x improvement in the AI volume denoiser, which it's nice that there is that separate volume denoiser now. OSL and vector displacement, and the example is an ear, where there's vector displacement that actually allows an ear to grow out of a plane or a cube or whatever. I'm interested to see what people are going to be doing with that. Higher quality rounded edges. They have a new way of doing rounded edges, which can really come in handy sometimes.
Absolutely.
Completely revamped layer materials. You can do a lot of material stacking and layers and stuff now, kind of in the way that you would do it in Cinema 4D with Photoshop layers and things, really making that
cool.
process easier. 4x AA super scaling in XB2, OSL volume shaders. This is really cool because you can do basically textures through your volumes, something I'm sure has been in Houdini for a long time, but
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means exactly, but
say you wanted to do
so you're displacing a volume essentially with a image. Is that what we're talking about? Essentially.
kind of, but you could also do texturing of those
Okay.
those volumes as well. You can make like a rainbow colored smoke,
Okay,
you
yeah.
know, stuff like that.
Sure.
Gotcha.
I mean, it seems like it's become, because that was the one thing I tried Octane a few times, but it's always been lacking in features and like stability for me. I found, but I think that now with the OSL, maybe it's different. Now you can probably do like attributes and stuff like that, because that was something that wasn't supported before. So I'm just gonna turn on the light.
Yeah, I
here,
was about
because
to ask you. I think it's getting late where you are.
Sorry.
Oh
So-
yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, I'll just keep going here. Also, universal camera with distortion and lens textures. I love the idea of being able to do lens distortion. With an Octane, because if you wanted to do lens distortion before, it was kind of a post thing, you know. But
Yeah.
now you can have OSL distortion in your camera. Let's see, new light primitives as well, like cone and different things like that. Because right now it's just like it's
Area
square,
light.
circle.
So my one question, because like the big deal for me when I used V-Ray in the past, and then when I went to Redshift released this was the directional lights. Does it have that? No, in Octane.
Yes, that's going to be a new. That's actually going to be in 2018, I believe.
Okay.
In like the next version. It may even be in the version that's out now. I haven't been keeping up.
Because that's such a good thing. Like that's something that is like so important, I think, when lighting stuff.
Spotlights and things like that, which that kind of puts our plugin out of business, but you know.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
All right, there'll be a few people who are on version 4.
Yeah, well, and plus we have some ideas of where we could go with that plugin if we even continue to support it. I don't know. We've been way too over our heads and other things to look at that, but also headless rendering on Mac. I know a lot of Mac people want to be able to use Octane, and it's kind of tough to do sometimes, depending on your hardware. But to be able to do headless, to say, okay, well, I've got Cinema 4D loaded up on my MacBook Air, you know, and it's able to use the different cards on servers, on PC servers, without having to have an NVIDIA card locally.
Is that 2019?
That's 2019.
Okay. I thought that was coming in this version. I feel like we've been hearing that for a while.
Yeah, I know, but the 2019 version is just going to be right around the corner. Yeah.
Right, it is 2019, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Just checking.
They're trying to catch up. Yeah. Random walk, subsurface scattering, which is nice.
That's cool. Yeah.
Coming to Redshift 3 as well next month.
Yeah.
And RTX speed improvements. He goes through, if you watch the presentation, you can see kind of what the speed improvements are with RTX. Brigade RTX update is in there too. Noise-free Brigade at 60 frames a second, which is pretty amazing. And then it also shows off a lot of the AR stuff with Brigade. Matt and I were able to, some of the stuff he's showing off in here, he showed us in person when we were in LA, and we got to see in the office, you know, some of the stuff they're working on, and he shows off some clips similar to what he showed us. So really cool. Hopefully we'll get him on and we can talk about that some more. So
Brigade that's their real-time engine, right? Is that how it works?
That would be more of their like game engine.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's all I got for that. I mean, I
heard that there's that the Redshift guys are working on a real-time engine too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was apparently announced now. They talked about it. They're calling it Redshift RT at the moment, which is something, I'm guessing something similar.
Yeah.
Game, like everyone is looking at that technology, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Everybody knows that all that's kind of merging, you know, the
exactly.
graphics and game stuff. So
yeah,
it's a good direction to go.
Yeah.
I also got some links. I'll do some Dave's links. And I'll just run through these real fast. It's just stuff that I came across this week that I thought might be interesting to some of you. Why can't I stream the Muppet Babies?
What?
Is one of the links I have. It's just an interesting article about why you cannot stream the Muppet Babies online, unlike Netflix or anything else. If you're a child of the 80s in the States who grew up with the Muppet Babies, it was a really great show, but unlike most things that are available... I would
assume it's because of all the licensing rights with all the different movies that they were showing, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's near impossible.
I mean, they'd show clips from Indiana Jones and E.T. and,
it would be so impossible, you know? It would be... It would be expensive to get all that licensing back, I guess. So that kind of sucks.
Interesting.
But,
it's a funny link.
Yeah. I've also got a friend who is really big into vintage cameras. He finds old cameras anywhere he goes and tries to get them working. You know?
Cool.
And it's really cool. And he's taken some great things. He's got some incredible cameras, but he just started a YouTube channel where he takes these cameras out and talks about them and everything. So if you're into vintage cameras, old cameras, not even super old cameras, but maybe things from the 80s as well, the 90s, not necessarily like, you know, the first camera ever made or anything, but I'll post a link to his YouTube. You can check that out. Also, David Ariev, I did not realize this video had not been released until like this week, but there's another video that he was working on recently called A Bad Think. Wait, is it a...
No, that's the band.
That's the band. Called Feel Me by A Bad Thing. And we'll post a link to that. Very beautiful looking piece.
It's such an awesome music video. And when he showed us this a few months ago, like, I was so surprised that it was not practically done, you know, because it's got that whole, like, someone's on stage and the background elements, like, you know, are just
layers,
flat extruded
like
elements
layers.
Or whatever. Yeah, they look like paper layers
designed
that
by
someone would
Schmoopy,
put on a stage. Right.
Yeah.
And so I was really surprised that though it was not practically done because it looked so realistic. So good job.
It's the same guy from the Space video.
Yes.
Yeah. So check that out. And then this is just a great render that I saw this week. It's PPRA Space Industry Maneuvering Ship. You can check that out. And John Dickinson posted something as well. He modeled a Ford 1934 5-window coupe hot rod. And it's amazing.
John Dickinson did?
Yeah. So he's got that up on ArtStation. I'll post that link in the show notes as well. Also, a link to a trailer for this mockumentary that just came out called To the Edge and Back. It's a flat earther thing.
Flat earther.
And
I saw a flat earther documentary on Netflix. Around the Curve or something like that. I don't remember. It was really funny.
Yeah.
So good.
There's the one that's on Netflix right now. It's been around for a month or so, and I guess at the end they do an experiment. This is a big article. At the end they do an experiment to prove that the Earth is flat, and they end up proving that it's round.
Yeah. They did that. Yeah, exactly.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
But this other one is more of a mockumentary. It's oh gosh, what's his name? To the Edge and Back. He's a YouTube celebrity, I think.
No idea.
I gotta find the guy's name. You might recognize the name. Let's see. Logan Paul. Did he get in trouble for something on the internet?
Yeah, he went to the suicide forest in Japan and found someone who had killed themselves and actually took video of it and uploaded it to YouTube.
I heard something about this. Yeah.
He's a terrible person.
Yeah, but he did this mockumentary thing. He went into all these places making people think that he was actually like starting to believe and he was becoming a flat earther, but it was all just for this mockumentary. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about, I got a link to, Casey Neistat. Is that how you say his last name? The huge YouTuber, millions and millions of followers, and he does all this stuff about video and reviews all sorts of different cameras and drones, and really nice guy. He's got some great videos. So he did a review of the DJI Osmo Pocket versus the GoPro 7, which aren't exactly the same type of camera, but I'm posting a link to this. This is the new camera that we're going to be using for NAB this year. We used to use the Osmo, and we're going to go with the Osmo Pocket this year. And I am just absolutely blown away by this camera. Now, if you're watching on the live stream, you can see the size of this camera. Yes, I have big hands, but still, this is a very, very, very small gimbal camera. And it even has a little itty bitty mini screen on it, which is great. And this thing just blew me away. It's like $300 and something, $360, something like that. It has just as much plus more of the original, which it seems to me that's how DJI does it. Every time they come out with something smaller, better, and it has just what the other stuff had plus more. This thing is incredible. Even when it comes down to time lapse, it will do time lapse, and you can move the camera and set points with this little thing and have it do a moving time lapse. Where you set point 1, point 2, you set the interval, you set the how long you want it to do a time lapse for, and it sits there and does a full time lapse. It's got amazing tracking. And you can do it with that little screen. It's better if you do it with your with the link to the phone, because you can draw a square around something. but it's not just people that it tracks. You know, it's great. You could set it on a tripod and you can do an interview and you can walk around and that camera will just follow you wherever you go. But also it will track objects.
DJI does all the drone stuff, right?
Right.
They're obviously doing this. It mounts on a drone, I'm guessing, them as well.
It's
the same technology.
Yeah, it's the same technology.
Yeah.
It's the same gimbal and the same camera as some of them, and probably more like the Mavic stuff. But the software that they have, I mean, any software that you get on any product from them is pretty much the same, and it has the same feel, does the same things, and this tracking. I mean,
I'm on a cell phone connection, so
no,
I don't have a need.
I'm just making sure it's not. Oh no, it says we're good. No, it says we're good. It said the stream went out for a second, but it's still rolling. The stream is continuing, is what YouTube told me. Thank goodness. I hate when it divides into two.
Yeah.
So the the camera is definitely better. It's 4K. It's better than a phone. It's not. I don't believe it's a Hasselblad camera or anything like that they're using on the Mavic 2, but it's still really good for what we want to do with it. Some basic interviews. We're going to have a separate H4n with a microphone, so we don't have to worry about audio, because audio is not great on it at all. And your hand ends up covering the mic.
And we're locking up again.
Oh, we are?
So,
oh, what is
yeah,
that?
well, we're back now, but I don't know. It was freezing.
It happens on your side occasionally, Dave. I just normally ignore it until you come back.
Yeah, it just goes and comes.
Just assume I knew what you were talking about.
Goes and comes back, goes and comes back. It's all good. It's all good. Everything says it's still good. I don't know if it's just a quick dropout or what, but
yeah, I think it's Skype.
Well, it's all. I mean, the stream was doing that too, so I don't know. I'm gonna try and convert the internet to a different package here, but let's move on. Let's quickly. I wanted to do a VR corner. The Oculus Rift S was announced.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Slightly higher DPI on the glasses.
Right. So inside out tracking though, which is
inside out tracking. Yeah.
No that's more what they've always done, right?
No.
Oh wait, inside out is without base stations.
Yes. Yeah. So you don't need any external like stands or whatever these are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really
Because they're sensors.
That's very cool. Because I know that there's a difference between the Vive and the Oculus, because one of them
is on it. And so it sees, which is great, because when you bought the initial one, you had to set up two of them, and if you turned around, it would get super wonky. So you had to buy a third sensor, but now it's like inside out tracking, perfect. You don't have to
I have one of the Vives, and it's been working really good. But then you have two base stations, you have one on each side, so it's going to track. But how does it then track the controllers? Do they track from?
I think so. I want to say they do.
Yeah, you need to have cameras as well then to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's coming from the
Oculus
headset.
Go. The Oculus Go does a really good job of tracking where the controller is as well.
It might be good enough as long as you don't have it behind your back. But that's the thing.
Yeah.
Because in
that's probably true.
some occasion, like if you need to grab something on your back in a game or something.
Yeah.
I know there's that might be funky, but anyway, that's very cool though.
Yeah.
It makes it more accessible.
Let's move to Peeples people.
Okay.
You guys do this? I'm gonna run to the restroom real quick.
How convenient. How convenient for you. Yeah.
All
right.
Yeah.
So we're going to do Beeple's people. So take out your Beeple viewer of choice. And for us, that's going to be, for me anyway, that's going to be Twitter. And let me just pull up Beeple here. We're going to go to our first one, which is March 18th, year of our Lord 2019. This one is called Hive Mind. And I'll bring it up on the dingus here. Now, this one to me is kind of interesting because I feel like there's a drone war or a mech war or something about to happen, because I'm guessing that these guys are the size of the big Beeples people. And so I think that...
So, big people? They're giants?
Yeah.
Are they? Okay.
Yeah, I think these are. I mean, we don't have a Beeple person for reference to really know if it's a big or a little Beeples people, but I feel like there's some sort of big war about to happen with some sort of robots or something.
It definitely looks like some sort of pilots or something like that.
And it's called Hive Mind. So they're linked together. These aren't humans inside of
they're real crowd sim.
Yeah.
They're all working together.
Like the Borg or something, So I don't know, that got me interested. That got me real interested.
So okay.
Obviously a lot of clones, a lot of render instances probably.
Cell shading.
Yeah.
Well.
Okay, Matt's back. I can get his opinion on this one here as well. Hive Mind, Matt.
Deal with it.
Well, there we go. I was trying to unmute.
Hive Mind.
Oh, that's pretty. Okay.
Yeah. So
what about it?
What size are they? What size?
Like everything
are they?
Beeple does.
What size
what?
Are they the big Beeples people size or the little Beeples people size? Is a
I
question.
think they're the big Beeple people size.
Because
anytime they're building some sort of human-esque, thing, it's a big Beeple people.
But also we're looking up at them, so we can kind of assume that they're big.
Right.
Or if you wanted to say that.
And it's called Hive Mind, so we're thinking that this is some sort of Borg situation or something.
The Borg are the best.
The Borg, or whatever the aliens are called on the Orville.
Oh, is there
the machines?
Is there a
just
Borg
you wait.
Oh,
that episode that I told you about that blew my mind from the aspect of like the fighting scenes and the space fighting scenes.
Drunk Dave's coming out again, talking about the Orville.
Let me tell you something about the Orville. Yeah, so is it the first or second? It's the second episode of the Borg-like episode of this season that just had the space scene that absolutely blew my mind. Is the best space scene I've ever seen on network TV. So
yeah.
Have you guys seen? It's slightly unrelated. Have you seen the Love, Death, Robots show?
Everybody's talking about it.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it is on my list too.
I recommend that.
Is it on Netflix?
Yeah.
So what's the premise?
Nick just told me the Borg are not the best. They have no concept of the best. They are all perfectly equal.
Oh,
so
okay.
As for the premise, it's just a bunch of short films, basically. All
they're
animated.
short films.
Yeah. So they're not connected really, but they're really, really nice. Different styles on each one. A lot of cell shaded ones and some more realistic ones. Really cool. I recommend it.
Check that out. I finished watching the Romanovs on Amazon Prime this week. Yes. I don't know how I feel about it. Good series. I'd say worth watching for sure, but I'm just not sure where it's going. I can't figure out where it's going yet. But it's very good for Amazon Prime for their series. I think Amazon Prime series are really going somewhere, but all right.
I mean, all of these services are doing. All of these services are doing quite well now. I think
the star power that some of them are getting is the big thing for me, and the budgets.
Have you also seen the Neil Blomkamp's stuff? The Oat Studios. They've been doing a lot of. They're on YouTube. They're also like free short films that they put out, and they're crowdfunding these as well, which is pretty cool. A lot of sci-fi stuff, but really interesting, worth checking out. A lot of his usual, like, cyborg-esque things. Check them out.
Okay.
Cool.
Let's see. The next one, March 22nd. This one's called Mushroom Kingdom.
Oh, I love me some mushrooms.
Not Mushroom Kingdom in the Mario sense of the word either, I don't think.
If it is, it's a very dystopian Mushroom Kingdom. Yeah.
Well, they obviously realized here that they can use these as satellite antennas to kind of.
I like
that.
That's I like
good.
that. Yeah.
They used the natural forms of the mushroom to tune in the TV signals.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, that's good.
So, okay, but notice the outside, they're like almost like peeling off the outside,
It might just be part of the mushroom.
I saw a really weird. Yeah. No, I saw a really weird thing on Reddit the other day about someone who made a wallet from pieces of a mushroom, right? Maybe they're harvesting these as like like making
to make wallets,
leather, or yeah, or making clothing or something like
I'm
that.
sure, like, there's so many different types of mushrooms as well. Like, I saw some, I don't remember, it was on Joe Rogan. There was some mushroom guy there as well. I don't know if you've seen that episode.
I haven't.
I haven't seen that
He
episode.
was wearing,
he
was wearing a hat made of mushrooms.
Oh man.
So I'm sure there are other things too.
These are definitely instants. They have the same tear on all three of them.
Of course, yeah.
You know.
Let's say that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
And you got the small one there that's knocked down too. That's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it wasn't big enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, not going anywhere. That one.
And look what the people are wearing too. These people almost look kind of medieval.
Yeah.
And so
No
the question becomes: are these because we don't have another big or little Beeples people?
Well,
for
I mean, you got the
references?
mushrooms for reference size.
Right.
So these are the little people.
Are they, or are these big
Yes.
Beeples people with oversized mushrooms? Hard to tell.
Well, I guess
Those are
size
okay.
is
So
relative.
you're saying that the
We're all
big
small
these
in the
could be
universe.
big people with even
You never
bigger
know.
mushrooms.
I mean, size is relative. Could be. We don't know.
Yeah.
All right.
We'll have another
Sure.
reference.
Okay.
I don't know. All right, let's go to the next one now. Owl Moon. This is March 24th. Owl Moon.
Yeah, it's what it says on the package.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
a moon and owls.
The interesting part, though, is what the owl is holding,
Oh yeah,
which
holding
is
a pig.
A pig.
Oh yeah.
So that is a big beeple animal
with
carrying a normal size small beeple people
pig. Maybe. But what size are the people in relation, though? That's my question.
I mean, that looks like a normal sized pig.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, but look at the pig compared to the people.
See, I think
though.
he's just messing with us now. He's like, let's throw off scale on everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's gonna have a new render in like the coming weeks called "What's the Scale" or something like that.
What's the scale? Oh, jeez.
Unscaled or something. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the moon looks quite big. There's two moons too.
Yeah.
As well.
Yes.
Let's not
Yeah.
miss that aspect about it.
So it's one of
So
those
this
other
might not be
worlds.
planet Earth, really.
Yeah.
It might be something else.
And you've got all these people with like he's doing all the peasants and the he must have gotten a good kit bash.
Must have gotten a new pack. Yeah.
Yeah. All the medieval people, the medieval kit bash
So
pack.
true. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I don't know what these owls
You know,
are doing.
it's medieval when they're holding a flag and
Yeah.
standing on a mountain.
Of course. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you
yeah.
have a flag?
Are you looking out into a big landscape with a flag?
Mhm.
And that's how you know you made it.
And these owls, though, that's pretty scary. I wouldn't want to be around these things. Eat you alive.
True story.
Man. I don't know. All right. Well, before we go, we have something that we do with every guest that's on for the first time, is we do something called Brograph Recommends. And so we're just going to get right through it here and ask you some of your favorites. And number one is, what is your favorite movie?
Oh, that's hard. Yeah, I don't know actually. I really like Fight Club. That's an old film, obviously. Everyone has seen that. That's one of my favorites. I like the.
Please don't say it's an old film.
I mean,
It wasn't that
it's-
long since it came.
it's 99 or something.
Yeah.
Around
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it is.
I know.
That is
Time
pretty
flies.
old. Yeah.
But it's not a new release.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what I meant. It's not that old, but
Yeah.
it's that's definitely one of my favorites. I love the kind of double reality that goes on.
Yeah.
There. Recently, I mean, I've been watching. I just now this weekend finished a series called Sharp Objects. Pretty good.
Oh, yes. That's
Okay.
great.
Really
Sharp
good.
Objects is great. It's based on a book, right?
I'm not sure.
I think it was. I
I,
forget who wrote it, but
I'm one of those people that never had read a book in my life.
I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
I don't read books. I don't like reading. I listened to a couple of audiobooks, but not
Yeah.
recently.
Let's see. And so are you more of a movie watcher or a TV show watcher?
I'm up for anything.
Yeah.
I watch a lot. Like I like. I mean, I'm a big fan of the Alien film and the Blade Runners and all of the stuff. Like all of that stuff is is classics that are like I'm always gonna keep looking at. But I'm also the kind of person that can enjoy something that is on paper really shit, and I can just appreciate it for what it is. I'm not gonna tear it apart if it has like a slightly broken story. I'm like, I can appreciate this for the visuals, I can appreciate it for the story, or maybe breaking certain points, but I'm not there like judging it. I'm just like there to enjoy, have a good time. And if I'm not doing that, then I don't see a point of. I don't know. I'm trying not to destroy them for myself, but yeah.
So Sharp Objects is basically a TV show, I guess, right? I mean, it's on HBO.
I think I know Sharp Objects.
Yeah. What's her name?
That one is one.
Amy Adams, is that her name? Hot Pam from The Office.
Is it her? No.
Yeah. It's Hot
Oh,
Pam.
Amy Adams, yeah.
Yeah, she was Hot Pam on The Office.
Oh,
was she?
Yeah, she dated
I don't
Jim.
remember that.
That one episode. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, she was on, I don't know, 1 to 3 episodes, something like that. I forget.
This is the American Office, right?
Yeah.
You're talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that show. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I used to watch that a lot back in the day.
Yeah, she was on like season 2 or 3, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, that series is great, and I think it's based on the book. I don't think there's going to be a part 2 to that series or anything. I think it's a one-time thing.
I do recommend that one if you haven't seen it yet. The Love, Death, Robots. That's something I've viewed recently.
Yeah.
It's really good. So definitely check that out. That's a good recommendation.
What about music? What do you listen to while you work? Or
Yeah, it varies. Like a lot. I listen to a lot of like SoundCloud mixes and different, a lot of hip hop and stuff like that. Sometimes I listen to more ambient stuff like Boards of Canada and that sort of vibe.
you do the chill hop thing?
Yeah, exactly.
I like that chill hop every once in a while. Calms me down.
I like that. Yeah, it's good background stuff when you don't like I don't want lyrics too much.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah. Anything else in that realm?
I mean, there's when we're talking about music, I can recommend a really good pair of headphones that I bought. I've had them for about a year now. It's the AKG K12 Pro, and they're like an open back headphone that I really recommend because they kind of feel like it's not these ones. They're even bigger, but they're like sitting around and it feels like you're wearing nothing. It feels like you're listening to speakers. So they are really, really good.
Is it the K612?
They're called K712.
K712 Pro. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
I really recommend them. I bought them because I went to, I think it was Us by Night, and I was there and I was in the hotel, and this guy, the sound designer, really talented guy, he goes under the company name Ecolab. I was talking to him and he was using those headphones and I was like, what are those? Because I know that he has a really nice kit always. So I tried them and I instantly like went on Amazon and ordered them like on my phone.
Yeah.
That was so good. And
they look really comfortable.
They're a bit pricey. I think they have a slightly cheaper version too, which are black.
These
red.
ones are $365.
Yeah, they're not super cheap, but they're really good. I think there's another. Yeah, there's the K702. They're like slightly cheaper, but like that sort of family of headphones, I really recommend.
The soft, like pillowy.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's like a pillow.
Yeah, they remind me of the old ones from the 70s or 80s or whatever.
Yeah.
You know.
Like my dad is a real hi-fi nerd, and he bought some really nice headphones, and I was like, Sennheisers, like massive ones, and I tried those, and I was like, I want something that is this comfortable.
Yeah.
And I don't care if the sound is that good because I listen to like MP3 quality sound on SoundCloud,
right.
So it's not a big deal, but those ones are really nice. I recommend them. So.
And what about? Do you listen to any podcasts or anything while you're working, or is that too much? Talking.
I find it, that's the thing. I find it distracting listening. Sometimes I've been listening to like, sometimes I've been listening to and it's a bit much. Sometimes it's a bit too much to listen to, and it's a bit American, too American. It's this Impact Theory, which is pretty good. I do a lot of the interviews with entrepreneurs and different successful people.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. Check it out, but like, don't blame me if it's really, really like a little bit too much sometimes, but it has some good information if you can sit through it.
Yeah,
and when you're listening,
kind of like the good.
Oh, I was gonna say, when you're listening, are you listening on Spotify? Or are you listening on another service? Or
I usually just go through the web browser.
Yeah.
Because
you said SoundCloud too, but I've been having weird issues with I have the Bose Quiet Comfort, of course, 35s, which REF just got for his birthday.
Is this the sound silencing one, or like
sound canceling ones?
Yeah, but what I've been noticing, because they are such a good pair of headphones, is I'll be listening to Spotify and I'll just start hearing a lot of garbage noise in there because of the compression. And I've actually gone back, because there's a selection to have high quality sound or kind of.
I've had that on since day one.
Yeah,
always download high quality.
I have too, and there's download high quality and there's stream high quality as well.
I mean, if you really want to up your audio game, then you should look at the kind of, there's this ducks that you can get, headphone ducks from like my dad has this one. It's called Hugo, I think, or something like that. It's a small headphone duck, quite expensive, but they basically interpolate the sound waves and filters the different between the.
That's nice.
And it's like such a big difference, even with the crappy source. If you're listening to something that's super compressed, it upscales it.
Interesting.
It does a really good job of it.
It's almost like I've been listening, and it's almost like well, here's what it does, because it is basically lower resolution audio.
Yeah.
Your brain, when you have that low resolution of sound, is having to fill in the blanks, essentially. And there have been studies done actually that prove that it is a strain on your brain to have to be listening to that. And
that is so true, because like when I listen to that duck, often when I get back to just listening directly with the headphone directly into the computer, I felt like I got fatigued by listening to it, and now I'm used to it again. So I don't want to get back to listen to good quality sound again, because then I have to buy one of those.
Yeah, and it's very weird, because like you will be sitting there, and when it gets real scratchy, especially on cymbals, you can hear a lot of the compression in cymbals, and so it'll make your brain kind of hurt, and like it's like it's using more cycles in your brain, essentially.
Yeah.
And filling in the blanks.
Throwing more samples at your brain.
Yeah, you've got to throw more samples at it to relax your brain. And when you're trying to concentrate and you're trying to work on things in the back, and then in the back of your head, something's not right. Like I noticed that things aren't sounding right. And I've actually gone in, and it's like it starts downsampling and forgets your settings. And I'll turn off the high quality and turn it back on, and all of a sudden everything will sound so much better. And I'm like, there it is. Like you feel this relief almost that it sounds better because you have the high quality on.
Yeah.
And I know
another really interesting thing that I sometimes listen to is kind of like I just go on YouTube or something and search for like storm and like storm weather or like rain or some shit like that.
I do
That's
that too.
Really, really good. That's so like just hypnotic background noises. Okay. Or I just turn off the audio and just have no head sound in the headphones, but I still wear them so they don't get bothered by people.
I've done that before. I'll turn on the noise canceling and I'll just but too much noise canceling, it sometimes messes with my hearing.
Yeah,
like
I've never had
it's weird. Canceling. I'll get ringing in my ears for a couple of days afterwards.
Yeah.
If I leave on the noise canceling.
Maybe you should just put on noise instead. That's what I do.
Right.
Well,
it's like it's weird. It's the like you can tell when it's on. Even when you're listening to music and stuff, it's like I feel this pressure in my ears or something like that. And it's like if I'm on a long flight or something and I'm wearing them the whole time, because I'll just turn them on just so I can like take a nap, and I'll wake up with a really bad headache and ringing in the ears.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Be careful.
But that's just me.
Well, Air has that song called La Femme, I think. And it starts out with rain. It's a super chill song. It starts out with rain, and I love it because it's I don't know. I don't know what it is about rain and thunder. Sometimes if I have my sound system cranked up with the sub and everything.
Wind with like leaves blowing in the wind is kind of good sound too.
It's super relaxing.
Yeah.
Well, okay, what about plugin? What is your favorite plugin besides Redshift?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, as I said, I don't use many plugins. I think Neat Video is a really good one as a compositing thing for reducing, because you don't want to destroy your footage or your renders directly in the render. So I'm against using the kind of noise reduction directly on render. But that's a good one. Brograph is not a plugin, but it's a tool that I use a lot. And then Deadline, even if you don't buy it, if you can download it and use it as an individual.
Yeah, for like 2 computers.
Yeah,
which is
it's definitely something worth doing, because if you can set up your environment to where you can, when you have a task that you otherwise would just sit and look at a progress bar, you can just distribute that to speed things up. That's something that Deadline can help you with. So and that's good for like multi-threading tasks that aren't multi-threaded too, in some cases. So that can be, even if you're just using your machine, it can be useful to kind of distribute these tasks on.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. About that.
Yeah.
So that's something. And especially if you have.
Could you throw like because a lot of After Effects stuff is single threaded. Could you throw an After Effects project into Deadline and then have it render individual frames on?
And you can split your machine as well into multiple instances. So you can have when I was using machines in the past with more than 4 graphics cards, we always split them into 2 so that they would act as 2 computers on the network, and that way it would render faster than if you had all the cards on one instance, because it's something with how it manages memory or something. I'm not sure, but we did some testing and it was significantly faster to split.
Interesting.
So that's something that I would look into as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but that's kind of the main stuff that I use. I don't really use many plugins. Now that's it, I think.
Well, the hard one though is going to be, what's your favorite life hack?
Life hack. That's a hard one.
Like Mitch Myers was to turn your toaster on its side for some bomb-ass grilled cheese.
I love that. Skip breakfast. That's what I do.
I agree.
What I do too.
I agree. Yeah. Same thing. Skip breakfast and lunch.
I like to have a shower in the evening before going to bed so I can sleep longer. That's a good idea.
Okay.
Then I have coffee on the way to work, so I don't have to waste time when I get to work to do that. Yeah. I don't know. It's not really life hacks, but it's just what I do.
Skipping breakfast, man.
Skip breakfast. I haven't had breakfast in many years. Like I do it sometimes in the weekends, but then it becomes kind of lunch because it's a bit later.
Yeah. I normally I've been doing that a lot lately. I've been kind of on this. I've been trying to get to my NAB weight, so I've been on a diet for the past month and a half. I'm gonna be on camera, so I gotta look thin.
You're on camera every week, but okay.
I know. But you don't see my body.
Gotcha.
Anyway,
gotcha. Yeah.
So I've been doing the intermittent fasting, where basically, you just skip breakfast, or you only eat for 6 hours out of the day. And for the first couple of weeks, it was kind of hard, but now I'm so used to not eating breakfast that it doesn't even faze me anymore.
I tried that too. I tried to I already wasn't eating breakfast. I was probably technically doing it already, but I tried to push it even further, where I wouldn't have lunch until much later, just to see if if you would gain more energy, because I heard people get more energy from it. That was kind of what I was going to try. And I did it for a while, and I can't tell, it wasn't significant enough to where I wanted to keep going with it, but it was, I might go back trying it again.
I don't like to eat until I'm to the point where it's okay if I get a little sleepy, because when I do finally eat, I get tired.
That's the thing. Yeah. That's the thing. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so I remember when I was eating meat, it was even worse. Like meat really slows you down even more.
Yeah.
but now I haven't had meat for like 13 years. So
congrats.
That's not really an issue.
I don't know how long it was before I gave it up.
Yeah. So. Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think the thing is, I don't know if it's a good thing. I haven't checked my values. I probably have deficiencies left, right, and center. So, but I feel all right. So if that's my the judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking about going to adding some, like doing full days of IF at this point, because I've stalled out a little bit, and the couple times that I've tried it or accidentally done it, there's some days because I'm in ketosis as well, and I'm doing intermittent fasting, I will forget to eat. And the next day I'll be like, oh, I didn't eat yesterday, and I'll notice a significant weight drop, and so I'm thinking about throwing in a day or two every now and then as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's probably healthy to do regardless, I think. Yeah. I don't think we were meant to have this constant flow of nutrition, like we are, especially now that we're sitting in front of computers instead of hunting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it makes sense in a way. But skip breakfast. That's an easy one to start with. It can be your gateway drug to fasting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to get out of here. We really appreciate you being on. We got your website here, panoply.co.uk. For those listening audio, I guess, what other places can people find you online?
I mean,
Instagram and...
Yeah, I have an Instagram account which is S Holmedal. I haven't updated in a while. Panoply has their own Instagram as well. Then I have a website, simonholmedal.com, which has some of my older work as well from ManV, and also a collection of interviews and old presentations and stuff. So if you want to check that out, you can do that.
Cool.
That's it. I don't really have much of a social presence in like social media, but
people can check out your stuff online and see some of your experiments and some of your projects.
And then you can also probably find my old grayscale gorilla tutorials.
Oh, I looked them up. They're still there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
Don't look at them. That was like 10 years ago. No.
Your hair's changed a bit since then.
It changes all the time. I never look the same. Like every picture someone takes on me looks completely different. It looks different people. So I don't know why. Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, you can rate us on iTunes, leave a review. You can also subscribe on your podcatcher of choice. Helps get our ratings up. You can subscribe to our newsletter, which I would say, don't worry about that right now, because we're going to have a new newsletter to sign up to next week. And you can say you've been there.
Go ahead and take that time and go sign up for the Camp MoGraph newsletter.
And MoGraph.com newsletter.
And
that hasn't gone out yet, but it will soon. You can say you've been there, done that, got the t-shirt with the no Brograph, no MoGraph tee, which is also going away. You've got
got 1 week.
That's vintage. That's vintage. I don't think we'll take down the shirts right away, but
all right.
We've also got the limited edition Gaten D. Simone shirts, which will actually be limited edition going away, because anything with Brograph is going to be discontinued. Also, we will have some MoGraph shirts that we'll put out there as well, so you can grab one of those before NAB.
No MoGraph, no MoGraph?
No, yeah. If you go to the secret shirts section of the Slack channel...
Oh, we didn't talk about the Slack changing over, did we?
Oh, yeah, we should say that if you...
So for those who are super confused, who are on the Slack, go to... it's all spelled out. MoGraph.com. No dot, so MoGraph.com.slack.com.
Right. It's not Brograph.slack.com anymore. So if you're confused...
So we've changed the whole Slack over. So if you're confused and you're like, oh no, they banned me.
That's what Casey said. Casey Hupke was like, did I get banned? I'm like, no, we don't get banned.
No. So just go there from now on.
Yeah, just go there. Check that out. Everything is kind of converted over, but yeah, we're going to we're not going to change the link to the podcast or anything like that. As far as your feed, all that's good. We're just going to change all the settings on it, which I've already changed, so it's already set.
I noticed. That's funny.
So that's good to go for next week. I'm trying to knock out all these things. It's so busy. It's going to be like less work to be at NAB than the build up.
Yeah, right.
I'm ready to take a break and go to NAB. So that's about it. we're gonna get out of
Very
here.
cool.
Again, appreciate having you on, and
Thank you. Yeah, anytime.
all right. Well, we're gonna take off. I'm Dave.
And I'm Matt.
Simon.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Later, bros.
All right.
All right. Just
Okay,
stay on with
and this
us
is
here.
where,
Yeah,
I
you
need
can
to make
stop
sure that
recording.
recording is, yeah.
We're still live, but we'll turn that
Sure.
off in a second here.
I'm saving my file for you. Do-do-do-do.
One seven.